Welcome to Women Lead TV. I'm Michelle Berquist, your host of Influential Women and Women of Influence. And with me today is my guest, Vicki Liston. She is the owner and the voice actor and voiceover artist for Smart Mouth Voiceovers. I want to make sure I got that right, Vicki, because that's a
Yes.
mouthful. So welcome and say hello to all of our viewers this morning.
Hello, good morning.
I'm excited to have you because I know this is something that's so different in like normal business and industry categories, but I think it's such a fabulous, piece that can really benefit your business through voiceovers. And that's really the focus of today's show, which is, voiceovers and how that can benefit your business by having the right voice. So first off, give everybody a little idea of what, Smart Mouth Voiceovers is all about and even your expertise in doing voiceovers.
Sure. So I'm a voice actor and I do narration for all types of projects. So I not only do the voicing, I do the audio recording. I can do the post-production as well. And I sit here in a, in a booth and I like to say I sit in a small box and talk to myself all day.
Wow, okay. Let's just unpack that a little bit. So you're talking to yourself is what you're saying.
Yeah.
How did you get started in doing voiceovers? I know there's a story there and I love this.
Yeah, so I always knew what voiceover was, thought it was very cool. I'd done a project in college that centered around voiceover. I was doing music and audio recording in college. So when I did this project, I was singing background vocals and someone else was doing the voiceover, but I thought, oh, this is so cool. I want to learn to do this. And then, of course, that kind of thing sat in the back of my head for the next, couple of decades. Once my son had gotten a little bit older, it was about 2012, and I'd finally decided, okay, you know what? This was something I always wanted to do. Let's
Mhm.
go learn it. So I flew to New York. I learned how to do it, and I've been doing it ever since.
And I know we're going to tell our viewers that you also teach people how to get into
Mhm.
the voiceover industry, which I think is super cool that,
Yeah.
you're willing to give back and teach and learn. But at the same time, it's a great way to tell people how you've done it. What do people not realize about what goes into doing voiceovers? I think that's always that, you don't just get on there and whiff it. I
Right.
know there's a whole process to doing a voiceover for, let's say, a commercial or something like that.
Mhm. Yeah, so it's definitely not as simple as, say, pulling up in front of a microphone and talking. There's a lot of thought and effort that goes into each and every script. Like, who's the target market? How do I connect with them? What's the
Mhm.
underlying message in a script? Not the what do I want you to buy, but what's the feeling? What's the message underneath? So, take, say, insurance, like life insurance. Yeah, the bottom line is that that company wants you to buy a life insurance policy, but that's not what the commercial's about. You're getting the feeling of security and hope that if something did happen to you, there is, hope for your children in the future, that life will continue on, they will be taken care of. There's nothing that you're going to have to worry about or they'll have to worry about. So
Mm.
that's actually what you're selling, and that's where the connection happens. That's when people buy, when they are communicated that message of security or hope. So when they feel that call to action, the commercial is then considered successful. So
Great.
target market, you want to be relatable, conversational, like they're listening to a friend recommend a product.
Well,
Back
that
in, mhm.
I was going to say that leads to a question where how do you come up with strategically like the voice that you're going to share? Do you like picture who, the person talking is? Because sometimes it might be childlike, sometimes it might be an adult, sometimes it might be somebody who's angry or frustrated or all those different things. How do you encapture that into your voice? Is that a strategy that you do as well?
Yeah, so a lot of times the client or the casting director will give you an idea of what they want. Hey, we need you to sound, girl next door, 20 to 30-year old, talk like, I'm talking to a friend, or it might be a very high energy. It might be very chill, millennial kind of a voice. So it all depends. A lot of times you'll get that from the casting director or the client. Other times it takes a little bit more research. So I'll go to websites and I'll look at the company. What's their vibe? What's their personality? And get a good feel of who their target market is. And then I will then try and reflect that in my voice to sound like that.
I love it. Can you just, I know this is like, I'm totally going down a random path, but can you just literally, if I say, okay, I want to hear you being a rushed, busy mom on the go, like, could you just change your voice and talk like that immediately? Or is it something you have to kind of prepare and work towards? I'm curious.
Well, it can kind of be, just a drop-in thing or a talk into thing. A lot of times as I'm working on, a script and I know, okay, it's going to be a mom, but is it a young mom? Is it an old mom? So then you go into inflection, how much inflection to go into, because that kind of makes you sound younger or older. Am I a higher pitched voice or a lower pitched voice? Lower pitched voices sound more trustworthy. So when somebody says, hey, I need you to sound like a nurse, I'm going to drop into more of an alto range because that's going to sound trustworthy. If I'm a sleep deprived mom, my voice may be kind of all over, maybe a little bit of, vocal fry and, frustration and lack of sleep and things like that. But yeah, I call it a toolbox. You pull out the toolbox and apply different technique to what the character is going to be.
I just love that. And I know for our viewers, just because we're talking about voice and finding the right voice for you and your business to market it, what are some recommendations you would make for people and how they could use someone who does voiceovers? I mean, I know one of the things we've talked about before is that, it's so nice if you have a voiceover on your website or something like that. So if you're even a one-person solopreneur, it can sound as if you're bigger as a company than maybe you are. But what are some other ways that you think finding a voice and having that on your, for your business that helps in marketing your business?
Sure. And the right voice is actually the key. So typically, say a company will go and spend a considerable amount of time and energy into branding. So they want to get the logo right, and the logo can even break down to font and color. Every aspect of your branding is going to reflect your vibe, your personality. And then it's consistent. So whether it's your website, whether it's your business cards, whether it's your email signature, it's all consistent. And wherever your prospective clients or clients go to find you, it's going to be the same throughout. So because all of those things complement each other in that personality, in that vibe, you want the voice of your marketing products, like TV, radio commercials, a website video that maybe is talking about your product or your services. You want that to blend in as well. So take like Peloton. They make home workout equipment, and there's a certain, grit and determination that no matter what kind of feeling to their marketing. So the voice in their commercial reflects that same personality. You hear somebody that's a tough guy or a tough gal, they're up for the challenge. They got this confident edge, maybe a little swagger, some attitude, and the voice blends in perfectly with the branding. But say you take that and put it in, say, a Pampers commercial. It's not going to match, and it's going to be clearly, where's the loving mom? Where's the sweet softness? It just doesn't work. That voice is perfect for Peloton, but it's not for Pampers. And once you get the perfect voice for Pampers, which is that young, tender mom that might be a little sleep deprived, but still, loving to the core, that softness, that voice is going to ring true with the Pampers branding. So that's why it's so important.
Well, I love that because so many people say find, your avatar for your business, right? Or, the kind of ideal profile, which I love, but then you're adding that to kind of make that sound, that voice that goes with it. Do you find that, businesses bring you back over and over again once you do a voiceover for them, or is it kind of one and done, or what's kind of the industry standard of being a voiceover artist?
So it can be both. I did Hardee's and Carl's Jr.'s, their e-learning videos for a number of years because they wanted that same voice on all of their internal employee videos. So every time a new sandwich came out or a new, coffee drink came out, they did an e-learning module. So the people that were making those items knew exact, okay, for you put the bun and then you put the burger and then you do this and do that. And, all these little things that go into it, but it's the same voice across the board, so it feels consistent. And then once in a while they'll change it up, for like a new season or whatever, they'll bring in another voice. Some places like to try new voices. Other places will do a campaign. You want the same voice for the whole campaign, so it sounds consistent. Even if the next campaign you use a different voice, that different voice will still have the same aspects as the other voice, whether it's just personality wise. Even if it's not the same voice, you'll still have that same vibe to the voice.
Very
So,
cool. And
yeah.
I mean, you brought up something too. It's like, I guess I didn't think about it because we're talking about marketing your business, but the internal side of company, the employee side, where it's like you've got
Yes.
voiceovers for the learning or training and development. That's super cool. I mean,
Mhm.
and I know we're all over because we got limited time, but can you kind of give us just a little bit of a brief overview of the different type of services? Because I think voiceovers, I'm going to think of, sounds on your marketing materials or on the
Mhm.
website, but I know there's much more to it. What are some of the other
Yeah.
services you offer?
Well, as far as the genres go, I know when I started, there was like 14 main genres, and that number kind of grows with new needs as they come up in the industry. But the big
Mhm.
ones are the commercials, TV and radio. That one, of course, is the sexiest. And when people get into voiceover, typically they're like, "I want to do commercials." So commercials are the big one. But then you also have that non-broadcast or corporate narration. So those are those internal training videos, the onboarding videos, things internal to a company that are not put out.
Right.
Then the e-learning modules, we see this a lot in online learning and things like that. That's a huge market. Animation, so all of your cartoons, your Saturday morning cartoons and things like that. Video games, that used to be a subcomponent of animation and now it's its own thing. It's absolutely huge.
Wow.
And there's
Have
just
you
as
done
much.
have you done
No,
animation?
I've
That would
not
be
done a
fun.
video game. I've done
Character
animation, but not video games yet.
or
Yeah.
a movie, right? Movies. It's
Yeah,
like
movie
what I love.
trailer is one. Yeah, and that's that big booming, they call it the voice of God.
Yeah.
So my voice is way too high for voice of God. So I'm probably never gonna do a movie trailer.
This
Um,
is interesting because, we're on women's advancement and like women being
mhm.
influential. I'm really curious in voiceover in the industry. Do you find that there's more opportunities for men because of that booming voice of God kind of thing? Or are there a lot of opportunities for women kind of 50-50? What do you see as kind of trending for women versus men?
So on the movie trailer side, it still seems to trend towards that booming voice of God, which is typically a male voice.
Okay.
But with everything else, it seems like not only is it exploding to where women have definitely more opportunity, but even in recent years, it's hugely exploded in the diversity of voices.
Nice.
They want to hear, a lot of times a company used to, we need one TV commercial and it will go out everywhere and it's this one voice that gets it. And nowadays they'll say, well, in this region of the country, this is our target market. And in this region of the country, this is our target
Oh.
market. And they will do 3, 4, maybe even 5 different targeted regional commercials with that specific voice. And it may be a
Huge.
diverse voice in this area where it's not in that area.
Yeah.
So there's a whole lot of diversity opportunity.
I do, and I have so many questions for you, but let's reference the like beautiful awards behind you, which like since I've met you, I find that fascinating. I'm like, holy cow! There's one, two, three, four. How many awards do you have back there, girl? Do you want to share? Because I know you've got, I don't know how many awards you won. I know only some of them, but tell everybody some of those awards that are beautiful behind you, and very congratulations, because that says
Thank
you're all
you.
that, which we already knew that.
Sure. So these are communicator awards. They're for business marketing. And so I'd done an AT&T commercial a couple of years ago, and then I'd also put in for I'd done my favorite nonprofit organization in St. Louis is called Pound Pals Neuterville. And they're severely underserved nonprofit in the St. Louis area. 100% of donations go to animals. And they didn't even have any kind of a video to put out there to solicit donations because they are 100%, donation centric. If they don't get the donations, they don't get to do work. And so when I realized they didn't have a video, I said, let me make one for you at no cost. So I wrote a script. I got that approved with the board of directors of the nonprofit. We kind of co-wrote the final version of the script. I voiced it, I filmed it, and then I did all the post-production and editing. And that ended up winning a gold communicator as well as a Telly Award. So I was really excited that a project that I had come up with and turned out to be multi-award winning. And then the W3 Award, I also do a DIY series on YouTube called On the Fly DIY. And that one is my philanthropic arm. So all the proceeds from On the Fly DIY are donated to no-kill animal shelters and rescue organizations. And it won a W3 award for best web series. So.
And I love that you give back. I mean, seriously, and you're so focused on the nonprofits that you want to serve and support, which I think is super cool. But you also, I would be amiss if I didn't say, because I'm going to read the list. This is like, I can't even remember all the places you've been recognized as a national expert on the New York Times, the Today Show, MSN, not just done there, Forbes. Okay, this one's really wonky, but Family Handyman magazine.
That was a DIY, yeah.
Okay. Apartment Therapy, House Beautiful, the Washington Post. My God, the list just keeps going. But obviously, you're a superstar at what you do. And I think this makes you amazing as such a person in a niche business industry for women. You know, I'm going to ask you two questions. What do you love most about what you do? And then what, if you can share, is a little bit of the most frustrating part about what you do in your industry, if you can share that.
Sure. So what I love the most is that every day is different. Every job is different, has different requirements. I love being able to get onto a Zoom and talk with a client and hash out how we're going to voice something and what their vision is on a project, and then being able to go into the studio and bringing that to life. They say actually the voice acting is the hardest acting genre because an actor gets to use their face, their body, their voice. And a voice actor has to take all of those things and only project with their voice. So I have to, maybe, voice an eye roll, and you have to be able to hear that eye roll. So it's a challenge, but it's a lot of fun. I think the hardest part, or the most frustrating part, is the unplanned noise component. In film, you hear the term, we'll fix it in post. And that's exactly opposite in audio. You want the best environment possible when you're recording, so you only have to do minimal post-production. And I do post-production as well. So the audio can sound over-processed if you have to do too much. So you want a nice, clean, as low of a noise floor as possible, no noise in the background. So when the guy next door decides to do some leaf blowing, or the city decides to tear the street up in front of my house right before session, which has happened, thankfully it was my session and I could change it really fast. But I'm kind of stuck.
I just love when you say you're in a box, and it's like, that's a soundproof box, but it's not 100% soundproof.
Right,
I mean, there's still things that can happen with anything. Yeah. And even live shows, but video, it's so true that all of your voice has to come through. There's no nonverbal that you can see, whether you're smiling or not, that has to come through with your voice. That's fascinating to me. So there's another component to you, because you are not just a one and done kind of girl. This is what I like most about you, is that you also, if I understand, you teach people how to become voiceover artists and kind of learn from what you've learned. So talk a little bit about, first of all, why, and then number two, it's like, do you find like you're teaching the competition? I'm really curious about that. But obviously you have a law of abundance kind of mindset. So what was the reason you decided to get into helping others learn how to get into the industry?
So that actually was something I wasn't expecting. I was still living in St. Louis, and my agent there said, hey, the local college is looking for a new voiceover teacher. Theirs is retiring. They came to the agency and asked if I thought of someone, and she's like, I always think of you, so sending them to you if you're interested. So I was like, you know what? Yeah.
Aw.
So I contacted the college and I said, yeah, I could do this. And I actually knew the person who was retiring. So I contacted him, and, we talked for quite a while, and I knew kind of what he taught, but I wanted to make sure that what I was teaching was kind of the same, at least along the same lines as the curriculum that he was teaching. So it sounded like we were both, had the same idea. And so I started teaching at the local college there. But it was a fire hose of information. So on one session, it was 4 hours of, industry and what it is and what it isn't, and myths and freelance versus agent, and, all these different things. And then there was another 4-hour session of how do you break down a script? How do you, mark a script? How do you voice something? How do you go into that backstory
Yeah.
of creating that mentality of being able to get that script out, as you're acting it? And so it was exhausting. And it was a lot of fun, but so exhausting. So then when I moved away, I thought, wow, I have all this great information, and it's a shame that I'm not teaching anymore. And I thought about starting again at the local college where I was at in New Mexico, and then COVID hit.
Oh,
So I thought, well, instead of doing that, why don't I just offer 1-hour sessions? So I broke down all of that fire hose of information down into more digestible hour-long classes and consultations. And so they're all beginner. So I do a voiceover 101, 102, 103, 104. And it's everything from learning what the industry isn't, getting kind of a reality check on what to expect if you want to go down this route. And then setting up a home studio. How do you do it without breaking the bank? How do you do it with little to no money other than
like
the
all the
equipment?
basics. All the
Yeah.
basics. That's right. And then I have a question.
Yes.
If people want to know more about that, do they just go to your website, which is
Yeah.
scrolling along our wonderful TV platform here? So it's smartmouthvoiceovers.com, and they'd
Yes.
be able to find the information that you are start. Okay, super cool. I
Yeah.
mean, can people do it part-time? I mean, is it a full-time kind of thing, or do people just have to jump in or dip their toe in? How do you see?
I started part-time.
Okay.
When I started in 2012, I started part-time. I had a day job. I was raising a son. I had just finished my master's degree. I had a lot going on. So I did my day job, and then would come home after work, and I would do auditions. And I did that. I was a freelance for 2 years, and then signed with my first agent, continued to do part-time until 2019 is when I was able to transition from part-time to quit my day job and just do it full-time.
Oh my gosh, there's so much that's there. What
Yes.
what haven't I shared with our viewers that you might want to kind of come up with one other thing that you want people to know about you? Anything that I missed?
I guess specifically the services I offer, not only the actual voiceover, that narration for your project, where it's a TV or radio, e-learning, corporate narration, things like that, but I also do the audio recording and the post-production. If you don't need that, I don't have to do that. I have clients where I voice, and then they've got an engineer that I connect with via Source Connect. It's a technology where I can be recording here in the DC area. The engineer can be anywhere in the world, and they will get the same quality audio there as if they were here in my house. But I also have the tech set up to where if a client just wants to sit in and say, oh, do that a little slower, or, oh, hit this word a little harder, or, they can direct me as I'm recording. We can do that too. And I can record here and, send them the audio.
I'm so excited because I mean, just out of full disclosure, I'm excited you're going to be doing some work for Connected Women of Influence for our radio show network as our intro and outro, and also for our Next Gen radio series, which is for the young women of the world and how they aspire to be all that they want to be. So I'm excited to have you work with us, and I'll be making sure that I pay attention to those two different voices, right? The girl voice and the adult voice. So that's super cool.
Yes.
I love it. I will leave our viewers with one like positive thing that we can end the day with. And it's just been an awesome pleasure to have you as my guest today. And I hope people reach out to your website, which again is scrolling, and there'll be a link in the show page for today. So what's one thing you can leave us with that's positive?
Sure. That every voice is unique. So, you had mentioned, oh, are you training your competition? Every voice is different, and there is so much work out there that there's no limit to what you can do.
Well, and on that, no limits. I want to say
Yes.
thank you. So I want to thank you, our viewers. We'll be back again for another Women Lead TV. Oh my gosh, I can't even talk today. Women Lead TV online show very soon. So Vicki, thank you for being my guest, and hang on with me as we end our show here. So funny.